Kinzinger is a pilot in the Air National Guard. Good to have you with us. Good to have you back on the program. Good morning to you. I mean, you know, this is John McCain has been talking about the refugee crisis in Syria, the hundreds of thousands of people who've lost their lives, the need to arm the moderate forces in Syria, back when there actually was a force that perhaps could have been armed. So then after all this time, we decided to spend as much as $500 million. We've spent 43 so far, and we have trained 4 people. This is not going well, to put it extremely mildly.
Well, so look, do you remember when the president said, he almost derisively, it's just a bunch of lawyers, doctors, and pharmacists that are fighting Bashar al-Assad? I'm going to tell you what. I would love if today the people in charge of Syria were a bunch of lawyers, doctors, and pharmacists. The president missed his opportunity, and then he comes up with this plan. Okay, we're gonna train the moderates in Syria, which there are a lot of moderates, by the way. We need to be very clear. There are a lot of moderates in Syria. He said he had this plan, but then they take these guys, they train them, and say, you can't fight the chief enemy you have, which is Bashar al-Assad, who's killed your wife, who's killed your children, who's killed your parents. And instead we say, sign in blood that you will not fight your main enemy, Assad. You're only going to fight ISIS. And by the way, we're also not going to provide a no-fly zone over you so that al-Nusra and potentially Bashar al-Assad can bomb you and kill you. It is a failed strategy from the beginning, and this is why you have an exodus from the Middle East, which frankly, you're draining the Middle East of all its young men that need to be there to secure and fight for the future of that area.
It's a wonderful situation for ISIS, for Islamic extremism, for Bashar Assad, because, you know, people are terrified, they're fleeing for their lives, and the people who are left are the ones who want to run an Islamic extremist environment or caliphate, and Bashar al-Assad, who this administration stood up and said he must go. So that's all over, apparently, but now there's a headline in the Wall Street Journal this morning that says that the United States administration is rethinking the Syria strategy. So what are we going to do now? What's the plan?
So look, it's the 8th rethinking of the Syrian strategy. The Assad must go line is another red line the president failed to enforce. I mean, what's sad is, and you see this with this arm and equip strategy, it doesn't seem like we're really succeeding anywhere at anything when it comes to foreign policy. And that's what happens when you have weak leadership. So now we're going to go into talks with the Russians, who have not had a role in the Middle East since at least the fall of the Soviet Union, by the way, and a little before that. Now they're beginning to have their place in the Middle East as we pivot away from the Middle East. And this president, instead of standing strong and saying the Russians will not prop up a brutal, evil dictator who is creating by his mere existence ISIS, instead the president says, well, hopefully we're going to enter into talks with the Russians. And those talks are not going to end with the United States getting concessions from Russia. It's going to end like the Iran talks did, with us basically begging the Russians to be on our side.
Well, the Russians are in place. You know, they're working with Assad, and the Iranians are supplying them as well. So they're on the ground, and they're making it very clear what their statement is and where they stand, with a physical presence there. So we're out of the picture, it would appear, for now, but we'll see if this change in strategy is useful down the road. Adam Kinzinger, thank you very much. Good to have you with us,
Martha.
as always.
Take care.